When it comes to Spider-Man, he is no stranger to having some of the spookiest and incredibly powerful villains as his standard opponents. That brings us to Morlun, who literally spells danger. The character isn't just a threat to our beloved web-slinger. He is absolutely dangerous to all forms of Spider-Men, Spider-People, and he does not even spare Spider-Women, for that matter. As a creation of John Romita Jr. and Joseph Michael Straczynski, Morlun hails from Earth 001 and is notoriously famous for feeding off the energy of all the spider totems by taking a trip to the multiverses. Well, gear yourselves up for today's video, where we will be exploring the origins of Morlun, whose first appearance was back in June 2001 in the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, issue number 30. This will be an interesting, detailed analysis of the scary villain, so we suggest that you stay tuned till the end of this video here. Are you ready? Let's find out all about Morlun. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. The Relentless Hunger Awakens. Origin story of Morlun, the cursed vampire. Truth be told, we don't have a lot of information precisely on Morlun's backstory, especially in regards to what he exactly is. If he was always like this, and if not, then how did he transform into his current state for that matter? However, as per a flashback, we are taken to a distant past where Morlun and his family of totem hunters are seen partaking in a fight against the Great Weaver, and succeeding in not only gaining mastery over the spider deity, but also making use of Master Weaver's powers to kill, if not all, then at least most of the spider totems on Earth 001. Following this, Morlun and his family are seen resorting to the web of life and destiny to further travel between dimensions and hunt down spider totems all across the multiverse. Well, now that the base is clear and we are all on the same page, we will be talking about Spider-Man's encounters with Ezekiel Sims. Add to this the latter's warnings about Morlun. This, mind you, will be a lot of comic issues explored together, and instead of doing this issue by issue, we are basically weaving a story here, one that will form the very foundation of today's video, and give us all a nice idea about the origins of Morlun. So do we have your attention? As seen in the 30th issue of the Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, Spider-Man is seen going on his usual night patrol when he encounters a man named Ezekiel Sims, one also with the powers of a spider totem, or in simpler words, a similarly powered man like our Spidey. But to our web-slinger's utmost surprise, Ezekiel seems to know a lot more about these powers than Spider-Man himself. Ezekiel learned very soon that because he was totemic in nature, he would be tormented by orders that are higher up the totemic ladder, and it is only fitting to say that he, in due course, was encountered by Morlun, who, if we are being completely honest, became more like Ezekiel's arch-rival. After Ezekiel was able to elude Morlun, he started gaining information as much as he could on the hunter of the totemic powers, and at the same time also took measures to protect all the future generations of spider totems, which brings us to his encounter with Peter Parker. Please keep this in mind that Ezekiel met Spider-Man only after he was pretty much convinced that Morlun would be targeting the latter. During their first encounter with each other, Ezekiel asked Spider-Man a very simple question, to prove if he actually got his powers from a radioactive spider. Like it or not, but this got Spider-Man into thinking if it was the radiation that enabled the spider to give him the powers, or was the spider simply trying to give him the powers before the radiation killed it. It is during the duo's second encounter that Ezekiel informs Peter that his life is in danger, and that he should at least hear him out, as that might help him survive for what is about to come. Ezekiel tells Peter that after the latter was bitten by the spider, he became a totem, or more like someone who bridges the gap between spider and man. Of course, Peter is not the first, and it goes without saying that there have been totemistic powers that go way beyond even the dawn of time. This is when Ezekiel further states to Peter that just like there are totemistic forces, there are also other forces that feed on them and on their inheritors over the centuries. Forces that still walk the earth. Forces that are used to hunting down Peter Parker and his kind just the way they have been doing for uncounted centuries. Ezekiel can literally feel the presence of Morlun on a cellular level, which brings us to the fact that Morlun, by this time, has already made his presence known to Spider-Man. However, the latter has not realized that yet. Earlier, there was a time when Spider-Man felt his spider sense going absolutely nuts, something that he had never felt before. To him, it almost felt like the term hide was etched in his brain in bold, and yet he did not see anything or anyone, thereby failing to realize it was Morlun tormenting him from the shadow. Ezekiel ends up showing Peter the bunker that he had his best engineers constructed for him. The bunker is 2 feet of solid steel, wrapped around an adamantium core with self-contained recycling systems for air and water, and a 4-month supply of food beneath the floor. Now, because these inheritors are virtually indestructible and cannot be defeated by conventional means, the only thing that can be done is to prevent the devourer of totems from being able to locate Spider-Man, and this is where the bunker comes into play. It is not only damn near indestructible, but it is also radioactively neutral at the same time. The spine-chilling tale of Morlun's first confrontation with the spectacular Spider-Man. Despite Ezekiel's attempts to convince Peter to hide in the specially constructed bunker, the latter is seen declining the offer and going to investigate a fire later that night at the east side. However, this has him finally come face to face with Morlun, who greets him with a punch, a blow that has Spider-Man admitting at the end of issue 32 that he has never been hit that hard by anyone, not even by the Hawk for that matter. Well, it is only fair to say that it gets established very soon that Morlun is incredibly strong and in fact a whole new level altogether, while Spider-Man is seen facing off Morlun, oblivious to how powerful and prevalent the latter really is. He painfully realizes that no matter what, Morlun will not tire, he will not grow weary, and most importantly, he will not give up until he is completely done with him. To top things, now that Morlun has made physical contact with Spider-Man, it is a lot easier on his part to locate him no matter where he is and continue the fight. So we find Spider-Man hitting Morlun with everything he has got, with everything he can lay his hands on, only to have the latter regaining the upper hand every single time. It is a tough, intense, continual battle, one that does not manage to get even the slightest reaction out of Morlun. Spider-Man, on the other hand, starts physically exhausting himself. It has been 3 hours of non-stop fighting, and we have seen Spider-Man attempting to escape from Morlun many a time, only to have Morlun catch up to him some way or the other, and in the fastest manner possible. Morlun is also not seen giving a shit about anybody as long as he gets to Spider-Man. This has made him endanger the lives of several innocent people in the process, but he doesn't really care. Spider-Man is ultimately able to escape from Morlun. May we add briefly here, after he has had his chest on fire, ribs broken, and more significantly blown up a kitchen with Morlun inside it. Of course, Morlun survives and he is seen emerging out of the flames naked and asking his wretched lackey Dex for a fresh pair of clothes. As for Spider-Man, he is seen going to Ezekiel and asking him to help him out. However, Ezekiel lets him know that he can't lend a hand to him anymore because it is a little too late and that he is going to die and there is nothing that anyone can do about it. Ezekiel is further seen explaining to Spider-Man that his bunker would have worked had Morlun not made physical contact with him, but now that he has done that, the bunker is simply irrelevant as Morlun currently possesses the power to find him wherever he goes. This has Spider-Man swinging away from there on his own and bumping into Morlun yet again. It isn't that difficult given the trail of chaos that Morlun has left behind. While Spider-Man is seen fighting Morlun way more aggressively than before, it is still difficult on his part to bring him down. This has him fleeing from Morlun for a while, making a quick call to his aunt and bid her goodbye. Then as he is seen turning around, he faces Morlun in the latter's death stare. But before he can end the life of our beloved Spidey, enters web-slinger number 2, Ezekiel, who is seen joining hands with Spider-Man and making Morlun bleed. An intense battle follows between the trio, the outcome of which happens to be Morlun absorbing Ezekiel and leading to his seeming death, much to the horror of Spider-Man. The sadistic Morlun is then seen taking a break and going for a cup of coffee, leaving behind an exceedingly disheartened Spider-Man. But suddenly, Spider-Man recalls Morlun bleeding and makes up his mind to know things about the hunter of the totemic powers for a change, thereby taking his blood sample back home to analyze it. Upon discovering that Morlun's blood is an amalgam of every kind of cell, be it animal, bird, human, and even insect, Peter realizes that Morlun has the purest form of DNA that he has ever come across. No points for guessing that Peter eventually finds a weakness that he can take advantage of, and intentionally draws in Morlun to the southern New York nuclear power plant. As he starts feeling Morlun approaching the power plant, Spider-Man injects himself with a shot of a radiation brew that he has concocted himself to deny Morlun the pleasure of feeding off of him. The dose causes Spider-Man unthinkable pain, one that is beyond description and imagination, and Morlun finds him lying on the ground. All this while, the only reason Morlun was after Spider-Man was because of the pure spider within Spider-Man, or at least he thought so, one that would help him sustain for a span of 100 years. But he wasn't even aware of the trap that Spider-Man had already laid for him. Morlun begins to absorb Spider-Man only to realize that he had absorbed more radiation, a lot more than even he could handle. He is utterly dumbfounded when he finds himself burning, and that is when Spider-Man gets up and admits to him that he is everything but pure, and further confesses that the spider that had bitten him was already subjected to radiation, and he at the end of the day was a product of both the spider and the radiation. The confession is followed by a shower of heavy punches, and Spider-Man is literally seen landing on Morlun, while the former can still handle the pain inside him. We cannot say the same about the latter. With every punch that Spider-Man lands on Morlun, the latter helplessly starts absorbing the radiation to an extent that it almost starts returning Morlun to his cellular state. Morlun is seen literally begging for his life and giving Spider-Man his word that he will leave and never return. Spider-Man realizes that letting Morlun go will make him come back for somebody else, and he cannot let that happen. While he is still seen deciding the fate of Morlun, somebody else is quick enough to aim at Morlun with a gun. We are talking about Dex, who, having been fed up with Morlun, tells him that he quits and shoots him right in the chest without hesitation. This has Morlun falling on the ground and simply disintegrating. When the police arrive, Spider-Man and Dex are seen escaping from the power plant, only to have the web slinger go after Morlun's lackey. Dex tells him that Morlun used to forcibly make him do things for him, to which Spider-Man decides to let Dex go, warning him never to come back. The haunting homecoming of Morlun. Did you really think that was the end of Morlun? Well, sorry to burst your bubble then. Of course, he comes back from the grave, and no points for guessing that after he does, he simply starts tormenting Spider-Man with the sole purpose of finishing him off. Our beloved Spidey is bedeviled with Morlun's unexpected, mysterious appearances that the latter kept making every now and then. And now, as if things could not get any worse, Spider-Man's powers start diminishing to the point that he gets himself shot in the shoulder. With him attempting to get himself treated, Spider-Man learns that he is dying. Now, if you were wondering of what, the reason behind it has not been well explored. The whole thing is just left to being some kind of an unknown disease. Morlun, on the other hand, makes up his mind not to fight Spider-Man in his weakened state, and instead decides to stay back and witness things on a first-hand basis. But knowing him, he eventually changes his mind. In what would be termed as a final battle, Morlun is seen beating down Spider-Man to a pulp, and even going to the whole extent of not only ripping out Spider-Man's left eye, but also eating it right then and there. Yep, Morlun can be both scary and sickening at times. With Morlun leaving after the police arrived, Spider-Man's near-death experience has him admitted to the emergency ward. Morlun comes back to feast on Spider-Man later in the hospital, only to have Mary Jane attempt to stop him. This irks Morlun. He breaks her arm and hurls her to one side of the room. Safe to say, Morlun should not have done that, as this is what triggers Spider-Man, and he is seen springing back to life with feral renewed powers. We are talking about stingers protruding from his arms, and he is seen making use of them to pin Morlun down and finally rip out his throat. Once again, Morlun is seen crumbling to dust. Black Panther Shuri sent Morlun into Limbo. In the Dark Reign storyline, Morlun is seen getting resurrected by a secret group of cultists who want Morlun to devour the Black Panther totem within T'Challa, given that he has been in coma post Dr. Doom's attack on him. This meant a dwindling Wakanda, and Morlun was already seen taking steps in that direction after he absorbed M'Baku. It is a different thing that he was crushed by T'Challa's sister Shuri, who with the aid of a witch doctor was successful in sending Morlun into Limbo, where he was left with no choice but to fight the eternal hordes of death. Breaking the chains of Limbo, Morlun's harrowing escape. Yes, there came a point when Morlun was able to escape Limbo and carried on with hunting totems, but truth be told, the fact that he died in the past did sort of make him afraid of Earth 616, which is why he continued with his great hunt on other universes. He is seen going to Earth 311 and killing the Spider-Man of that universe. Morlun does not even spare the Spider-Man, who was only a totem for a period of 3 days. After he arrives on Earth 1983, he is seen literally butchering both Iceman and Firestar, and also going to the very extent of killing the Spider-Man of that particular world. As part of Morlun's great hunt, he also killed countless versions of Miguel O'Hara. You will be shocked to learn that Morlun and his family, who was basically known as the Inheritors, were almost on the verge of performing a ritual that would have ended the lives of all spider totems. Well, thanks to the intervention of the Spider Army that left the Inheritors in a universe with a radioactive Earth, when they became completely exposed to radiation and just could not escape from there. They would have died had Spider-Man not told them about Ezekiel's bunker in Sims Tower. Morlun and his family survived and did not pose themselves as a threat to anyone anymore. Morlun's ruthless rampage across dimensions. Well, this does make one wonder how they managed to escape again. Well, it is all thanks to Genix, who was able to hack into the databases of Otto Octavius to generate an interdimensional transmitter, and then make use of the spare clone bodies of Otto to transfer their souls into Earth 616. This eventually had Morlun's family engaging in a battle with the remaining Spider Army, and as for Morlun, his focus remained on Peter Parker. Hell-bent on killing him, Morlun was able to locate him very quickly and had him severely severely injured. Morlun would have killed Spider-Man had Miles Morales not intervened. And add to this, a horde of other distractions that were hurled at him by the Spider-Man. Of course, this had him both distracted and angry, but it ultimately landed him in a cage, unconscious due to numerous tranquilizer darts that were shot at him by both Peter and the very members of the NYPD. As for the Spider Army, they were able to transform the siblings of Morlun into babies, and at the same time get rid of their hunger for totems. Peter didn't want to take any chances. No wonder he asked Miles to call the police department so as to bring Morlun and turn him into a baby as well. The tale of Morlun's scientific experiments. As seen in the Last Remains storyline, Morlun had successfully made his way out of imprisonment after an anonymous group of scientists captured and experimented on him. Post-killing the scientists, he was seen residing in the very sewers and devouring the spiders there. Morlun could sense things after Sin Eater mutated his followers using the spider virus. This had him going after them. Morlun was seen relishing on them when he got ambushed by Sin Eater. Initially, things were working in the favor of Morlun, but with Sin Eater putting Morlun off the track with a grenade first, and then shooting him with a shotgun, he was able to absorb the very powers of Morlun. It was only after Sin Eater died that Morlun got back his powers. Is it end of the Spider-Verse or end of Morlun? Excited to be reunified with his family, and believing that they were already waiting for him at the base of their operations, or Loom World to be more precise, Morlun ended up tearing apart Spider-Boy's left arm to lay his hands on the Dimensional Travel Watch and travel to Earth 3123. There, he confronted Spider-Man, and upon discovering that she had eaten his infant family, he ended up killing her out of rage. Next, Morlun is seen coming face to face with Shathra, the totemic wasp goddess, and post getting defeated, he is sent to Earth 616 Beta, where he is forced to join hands with Anya Corazon and Julia Carpenter. It is also around the same time that Morlun decided to keep his hatred for the Spider-Man of Earth 616 aside, and instead form an alliance with him. But Spider-Man held Morlun responsible for another Spider-Verse threat, given the latter's past, and ended up attacking Morlun right after setting his eyes on him. The misunderstanding gets clear eventually, and Morlun is led on to fight along with them on their side. Morlun makes up his mind to stab Shathra with the mythical totem dagger in the hopes that it would ultimately detach her from the great web of life and destiny. However, as he tried stabbing Shathra, nothing happened. So here's the thing with the totem dagger. It only works on totems, and Morlun himself, being a totem of the leech, had no power to stop Shathra. Feeling disgraced and crushed, Morlun attempted to kill Silk in order to gain more power, but that led her to stabbing Morlun instead with the totem dagger, and in turn, restore all the spider totems that Morlun had absorbed back to their lives. Fair to say, Shathra was defeated, and as far as Morlun was concerned, he was back to his weakened condition, residing in the outer edges of New York on Earth 31. Journey begins of hunting spider totems across the multiverse. After Morlun was stripped of his powers, and let us not disregard his mental health here, he was found either hiding in the subways or feeding on the spiders. This continued for some time, till he crossed paths with Carnage of Earth 616. Would you believe us if we told you that he actually tried to use Carnage to wreak havoc? It is a different thing that Carnage was witty enough to see through Morlun's obsession with totemic essence, and he went on his own way. Morlun was reported to have resumed his hunting spree all across the multiverse after his encounter with Carnage. Morlun's terrifying powers can absorb life force. Now, there is no denying that Morlun is in possession of many superhuman attributes given his unique physiology. To begin with, there is his primary power to suck the life force of other living beings, which is what grants him with superhuman physical abilities. Mind you, he can absorb the life force of any being he wants to, but then again, it is mandatory on his part to renew himself by feeding upon the purest form of totems. Please know that once he makes physical contact, he has the power to locate him or her, no matter how far the person is. Apart from this, there is his superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, and add to these, immortality and the power of flight. Last but not the least, he is superb when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. Trust us when we say that you do not want to be on the receiving end. Marvelous verdict. Well, that is all for today, and with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. So what did you think of Morlun? What is it that you fancy the most about this character? We would love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. We also feel that it will be really interesting to see him in a live-action movie. If you ask us, we think it is high time. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please do leave a thumbs up. Also, stay tuned with us, as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye, and thanks for watching. Have a nice one.